הזכירה, the gate of remembrance. מידה שאין העולם יכול להתקיים בלעדיה. The world cannot exist without the property, the מידה of memory, remembering. כל משא ומתן בעולם הזה, כל תלוי בזכירה. Every business deal is dependent on memory. כי לא היה אדם מאמין לחברו מלווה לו אם לא היה זוכר. Nobody would buy or sell, nobody would give a loan if nobody would remember anything. He says, כל עניין של העולם, גם מקח וממכר, אם היו שוכחים דבריהם, לא יכולים לעשות. The world can exist if you don't remember anything. People who have amnesia, or people who are, are old, they forget things, they cannot function. They cannot function in the world. It's very hard, very hard. We don't have to talk so much about this because everybody knows how important it is to remember. He says a person has to adopt this trait as much as he can because it's offense to the truth. What does that mean? It means that one who always speaks the truth doesn't need a good memory because he doesn't have to remember what he said. Rather, the author is speaking about a situation where a person committing himself to something, and that way, when he remembers, he'll stick to the truth. What does that mean? A person learned one time why it's important to keep mitzvot, why it's important to be religious, why it's important to serve Hashem. So sometimes we forget. The next day we forget, we get cooled off, and I don't know, I'm not so into it anymore, I hear, okay, I know I have to. When a person's on fire, he says, wow, Rabbi, you give me a fire lecture, I want to do the mitzvot, you're right, I'm going to show up every day. You have to have the midah, is remembering that feeling and keeping that feeling every day. As opposed to naturally our heart forgets. So therefore, this is what he means, that it's a offense for the truth. You always be able to stick to the truth, because you can learn the truth one day, you'll forget it the next day, you have to remember it. He says also a person has to be careful to remember his vows, the pledges he made. He has to remember a promise he made to his friend. If his friend reminded him not to share this information, he has to remember not to share it. If he borrowed money, he has to remember to pay back the money. If he has a lot of business deals, he has to make sure not to owe anybody money or steal from anybody by not paying back. He has to remember to be an honest person. He says the worst thing, Chas v'shalom, is forgetting the good favor that your friend did. And you don't repay the favor by being makir tov, by being grateful for what he did. In Yan tzedakah, obviously you have to remember all the pledges you made. You have to remember, if you witnessed something, let's say you witness a loan, you witness a kiddushin, you have to remember it. That way when they call you to Bedin about this, to question you about it, you'll remember what you saw. And Hashem reminds us, you have to be careful that we have to remember not to forget the word, the mitzvot of Hashem, His judgment and statutes. Hashem warns us, don't forget. As it says, David the Melech says in Tehillim, we say it before, we say it in the tefillah before Lamnatzeach, Shaviti Hashem Nagdi, Tamid. I always have Hashem in front of me, remembering. He says, remembrance, remembering is the vessel that contains all the mitzvot. As it says in the Sisit, Uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam. Leman tizkiru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai. Pasuk says, you'll remember the mitzvot, you'll see the Sisit, you'll remember all the mitzvot, and you'll be able to do them. So the main thing is remembering. Right? The Hasidic masters say that Hashem sent us on mission here, and there's many mashals they give about how mashal, like the king sent the son to a faraway village in his kingdom, that everybody there is farmers and villagers, and he threw him there in galut, like an exile on purpose, for him to figure out how to live. You gotta be mature and use your survival skills, And eventually he tries to work there. He tries to, he was a spoiled kid in the palace. Now he's learning how to live real life. So he goes and he lives there. And eventually he gets so friendly with the people there. He finds a nice girl. He gets married. And he forgets that he's a prince. He completely forgets he just lives there like a regular villager. And the king sends the messengers to go check on him. And they have to remind him, hey, you don't get stuck here. You don't forget what we sent you here for. You gotta make your life, and you gotta come back to the palace. You can't stay here forever. So that's the biggest thing that we have to remember. We have to remember why Hashem sent us here, and what's the main purpose. Sometimes you get carried away. I want to make money. I want to make a good life for myself, and then I get so busy with that, and then I forget what that I'm a soul. I remember I'm a body, but I forget that I'm a soul. And that is the biggest thing a person has to remember.
I don't know why Hashem grants somebody such a great memory, and another person grants them just a hard thing. So like you can remember things photographically, and some other people not. So why Hashem kind of gives somebody with such a great memory another person?
So Hashem, the same thing. Why does Hashem make people? Some people very wise, some people very strong, and some people very weak. Some people not so wise. Kadosh Baruch Hu, you should know. The Gemara says that Hashem determines this before you come to the world, right? For whatever tikkun and whatever mission you have to accomplish in this world, Hashem gives you the tools for it. So for some people, they don't need such a great memory. For some people, they don't have a great memory, but they could raise their memory, right? Just like you could be weak and you could become strong. So you could be not wise, you could become wise. You could have bad memory, and then you could grow your memory. There's exercises to grow your memory also. But if a person, doesn't have such a good memory, and even if he works on it, it means that he doesn't need that tool. It's for his mission. He doesn't need such a great memory. Nonetheless, we all do need somewhat of a memory. If you don't have any memory whatsoever, I tell you 2 seconds ago something you forget, and you can't function in the world. It just means there's levels to the memory, and that's also from Shamayim. Okay, fine. So you have to remember, number 1, all the kindness Hashem did for us. He brought us into existence from nothing, and He raised us, and He gave us everything we have till this day. Number 2, the fact that you're healthy, you have to be grateful for, right? By Moroccans, that's the biggest thing. Rak briut, shtabach shabulat, tabari, tabeseder, zeu. Everything else, you don't have to. You're crying, you don't have money, say Baruch Hashem, you're healthy, that's it. What do you have to cry about, right? You're hungry? No, it doesn't matter, as long as you're healthy, that's it. What do you have to cry about, right? That's the main thing. So much so that should make you feel, you remember that, that's it. It makes you feel like $1 million. That's it. That's very important. Number 3, you have to be grateful to Hashem. Remember the kindness, they gave you wisdom and knowledge. And then you have to remember Hashem is so kind, He gave us the Torah. You have to remember Hashem's mercy, that He protects us from all our enemies. You have to remember that if Hashem saw a sin, He didn't have to give us life for us. He could have killed us on the spot. We don't deserve to have mercy from Hashem that we should survive after a sin. And then you have to remember all the affairs that you went through, all the miracles that you went through, all in your personal life, not just as a nation, in personal life, everything Hashem did for you. And number 8, you have to remember how all the king's servants are eager in their service of their king. How much more so we should be eager to do service of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, all these things, a person has to remember. He says, number 1, a person must remember if a man has a wife that he loves, like his soul, or a son he loves with his heart, he will exert himself to do whatever they wish. Same thing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to remember our love for Hashem. One must remember all of His deeds. You have to remember all the mitzvot you did, and you have to remember all the averot you did. And that way, you do teshuvah, and you keep doing more mitzvot, building on the mitzvot you did in the past.
You can think about the averot and just
yes. Obviously, you forgave yourself, and Hashem forgives you. But you still have to remember not to fall into the same thing. One has to remember how eager and quick he is to run, to make money. He has to use the same koach and the same strength and the eagerness to go and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll read a story over here, and we'll end. It says over here, there was a CEO who sent one of his agents overseas to go a high-level meeting, secure a business opportunity for millions of dollars. He gets over there, he gets picked up in a limo from the airport, taken to the 5-star hotel. Wow, unbelievable. So he goes, he sees beautiful sights, beautiful scene, and a lot of luxuries. He goes to the hotel, a pool, tennis court, restaurant. They send his luggage to his room. He grabs a few drinks. He plays tennis. He dips in the pool. 7-course meal. He goes to his hotel room. There's a theater over there. It's 2 a.m. and he's exhausted. And then he goes to sleep. The alarm rings for 7 a.m. Why? Because the 8 o'clock executive meeting. He wakes up at 10. He oversleeps and orders a brunch. He watches the sports on the TV. 12 o'clock noon. It's now time for a late lunch. He goes to swim. He goes to the spa. Gets a massage. Goes to sauna. He gets off. Goes to the airport. Goes back to the office. Next day, a very excited office says, No, about the meeting. He says, oh, meeting? Oh, yeah, meeting. He forgot about the meeting completely. He says, what? You spent all my money. You were there in the hotel. You racked up the bill. And at least you would make us $1 million. I don't care you spent all that money. But now I have a big debt. You didn't make any money. What is this? He says, why did you forget? I forgot. How did you forget? So therefore, a person has to know the same thing with us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I have no problem giving you this, giving you that. You spent a lot. I'm going to cover the bill because it was worth it to invest in it. You're going to do a lot of mitzvot. But then you spent all day, so you didn't even show up to the meeting, you didn't do any mitzvot. What did I send you for? You caused me a big bill. Baruch Hu Olam, amen.